So we're going to discuss how to conduct an interview. Now, an interview is a way to incorporate primary source material into your paper. It also allows you to create that personalization that we look for in an essay without becoming very me-centered. So a lot of times we get stuck in trying to incorporate our own personal experiences when an academic research paper really discourages that. So using an interview allows you to get personalized stories without using your own personalized stories, if that makes sense. So an interview is a great way to do that. So I do suggest when you look to find an interviewee that you find someone that is applicable to the topic of your paper. So if you're looking for a change in terms of, I know someone's writing a paper about reducing homework in the school system. So getting an interview with your school principal or the school superintendent, another teacher, this could be helpful in developing that personalization in your paper. So when you conduct an interview, you need to make sure that you contact your interviewee and do this in a professional manner. We want to make sure that they would like to be interviewed, that they're willing to be part of your paper. Request an interview, be accommodating, and make sure that you have a time and a place for the interview. And you're going to prepare for the interview by coming up with your own questions. We're also going to talk about meeting with your interviewee and following up with that interview. So let's talk about setting up the interview. So you want to contact the potential interviewee in advance. So you don't want to just spring it on somebody. I know, especially in the school setting with the example I gave before, you have a lot less formal kind of connection to your teachers and your principal, and so it's easy to just, hey, do you think I could interview you? But it's professional and appropriate to set up an interview in advance and make sure you ask and keep in mind that this person is doing you a favor. So arrange for a specific time and place and let the interviewee know how much time it will take so that they can reasonably accommodate the interview that you're going to have with them. Keep in mind also that this can be an upfront one-on-one interview face-to-face, but you can also do interviews online. You can do chat room interviews, you can do phone interviews, or you could even do emails where you send them a list of questions and get answers back from them. So all of those things are fine. But make sure that you let them know what you're going to interview them about so they can be prepared themselves. I do want to also let you know that this is a great, all this information is provided by the Purdue University Writing Lab, so it's some great information, and they have more available on their website if you wanted to check out information on interviews. So when you prepare for the interview, a couple things to keep in mind. Be sure you write out a list of questions in advance, and I think that when you do that, it is helpful. It keeps your interview flowing well, and it also allows you to have a place to take notes, which is nice. And it also allows you to have some backup questions. So you have several questions written out, but also some follow-up questions that you might want to ask. And so you have something to really dive deeply into whatever topic you're trying to interview for. Find out information about the person you're interviewing. So this is really helpful, especially if you don't know them personally. So if you've contacted your mayor or you've contacted, an executive in a business near you, whomever it may be, getting to know who that person is and their accomplishments can help you in terms of developing your questions and also understanding a little bit more about what their answers may be going in. So decide which questions are the highest priority if time runs short. So you could do a hierarchy of questions. You can skip follow-ups, whatever you decide to do. But I think it's important that in terms of when you decide, or if you decide to skip questions, look at what your goals are for the interview. What's the point? So do you just want some personal stories? Do you want something that gives some girth to your argument? Does it help? Is this person going to show the opposition to your point of view? What are your expectations and goals for that interview? So when you come up for questions, ask yourself, what is it that I need to know? And by doing so, you can help draw out a list of things that you're hoping to find out for your paper. And when you list these questions, think about what the person is going to answer. And you may be surprised and find out that they don't answer the way you think, but it's good to have expectations, because then that can help you in developing your questions, but it also can help you in terms of when you approach the interview itself. And check your questions carefully to see if the wording could be offensive to your interviewee. Keep in mind that this person is doing you a favor. They don't have to say that they're willing to be interviewed, and so we need to be polite and respectful for sure. So when you meet with the interviewee, these are just some face-to-face guidelines. Bring something to write on. So this says stiff back notebook and writing instruments. So, something that you can write on, that you don't rely on their desk to write on, and that you have a pencil or you have a pen, and you have multiples, so in case the ink goes out or the lead breaks, you don't have to, hey, can I borrow a pen? So we want to make sure that you're prepared, just physically prepared. If you want to record the interview, always ask before doing so. You can record with video, you can record, with the audio on your phone, you could do an old-fashioned tape recorder, whatever you may have available, but you need to ask permission first. And as you are conducting the interview, even if you are recording, I think it's important to take notes, because this can help you in terms of what do you want to focus on when you are then writing about it later. But make sure that you're still talking to the interviewee, you're looking at their eyes, asking them questions, and not just scribbling on your paper the entire time. That's why really recording is helpful, because then you can just take quick notes when if you are trying to get a word for word kind of answer from them. It can be difficult to do so without recording. Also, email interviews are great, because then you can get exactly what their wording is going to be. So other things you could think about: be sure that you come to the interview with a prepared list of questions, which I mentioned that before. Try to stick to your topic. So you definitely want to be flexible in an interview, whether they continue to talk about something or give examples that you weren't expecting. You may end up asking questions that you don't have on your list, but you don't want to go off on too many tangents, because that can eat up your time, for one, and it can also detract from your topic that you're trying to work on for your paper. But you need to be flexible in case they bring up unexpected, valuable information. Now, like I mentioned, online interviewing can be very helpful, and it can be easier to approach in terms of if you want to quote exactly your interviewee. Doing so via email is great. You still need to ask permission. Do you mind if I interview you for this paper that I'm writing for my class? Send them a list of questions. Make sure that you establish the scope of the interview, so let them know what the paper is about, how much time that you think that they would need to utilize for your interview. Courtesy still applies, okay? So we still want to be courteous, respectful, and understand that they're doing us a favor. So, but online interviewing is great, especially if you want direct quotes from your interviewee, and they have time to think about the questions instead of just being on the spot. So that's also a benefit of online interviewing. One of the things that oftentimes I think does not happen in an interview setting, especially for people that are just learning how to interview, is that they don't follow up. But I think that it's important that we do follow up with the interview and be thankful for their time. I suggest a thank you note would be great. And of course you want to thank them for their time at the end of the interview, but doing so afterwards, whether it's a note or a phone call or an email, hey, thank you so much for the interview. It really helped with my paper. This is what I did. Can be courteous and respectful and nice. So Also, I do suggest that you, once you've written up the results of the interview, let your interviewee see the results. So if you have notes that you've taken or you have a quote that you're going to use, let them look at it over. I think that this is very courteous, and it lets them confirm that you've represented them accurately. Oops, sorry, I missed that last one. And try to have a allotted time after the interview for yourself to actually sit down and write down what they've said, so that's all fresh in your mind. Now, of course, in our papers, we're not going to have a word for word, back and forth response kind of script attached to the paper, but you could definitely utilize quotes that they shared. You can incorporate their point of view. You can paraphrase your interviewee. You would use them the same way that you would use any other outside source. Now, remember, when conducting a successful interview, you're going to pay attention to these steps that I mentioned at the beginning that we've gone over. So you're going to make contact. You're going to prepare for the interview personally. You're going to meet with the interviewee and conduct the interview, and then follow up, which is always helpful. So if you want to know more information that the Purdue University Writing Lab puts out, this is their website. But that is all I have for this week.